ACCA, Developing Professional Accountants.
Welcome to F5 Performance Management. F5 is the first management accounting paper that you get at the skills level. It builds, maybe for some of you, on a background of knowledge that you already have from the F2 paper in the foundation level. Please note, if you have not done F2, I consider that everybody taking this paper knows nothing. That's generally a safe assumption. As such, I will give you all the information that you need to know. Now, if we look at the paper, we see it's called Performance Management. It is, as I've already said, a management accounting paper, but we have to remember that there is a specific emphasis here. And F5 is focusing on performance. When we look at the individual components of the paper in a moment, we have to remember that overlaid on top of all of those 5 core areas, we always want to assess performance, whatever that means. So let's look at the outline of the syllabus. As I said, there are 5 core areas. Firstly, we have costing methods. Now, of course, there will be some consideration of the basic generic costing methods you may know, such as absorption costing and marginal costing. But you must remember that these have already been covered at paper F2. As such, when we look at costing methods here, we're looking at how maybe we've changed from absorption and marginal costing and how we've responded to specific issues or problems by modifying or introducing new costing methods. Secondly, we have decision-making techniques. Decision-making is the single biggest core area in this paper. Not only do you have the basic relevant cost analysis, but you've also got your marginal costing applications, you know, things like break-even analysis, possibly limiting factor, that sort of thing. But in addition to that, you have some pretty chunky topics in the form of linear programming, decision-making under uncertainty, and pricing. And pricing in itself is quite a large topic area. These all fall within this core area, and that means there is a strong chance in a number of the exams that you will get more than one question on the decision-making area of the paper. Thirdly, we have budgeting techniques and methods. To me, this is a smaller topic area and often is conspicuous by its absence in the exam. A lot of it is discursive. You have to know about different budgeting types. You also have to be able to deal with behavioural aspects of budgeting. Now that's very interesting because, you know, we said a moment ago that performance was what this paper was all about. Well, one of the angles that the examiner tends to have with regard to performance is how managers may manipulate their performance in poor ways for the company as a whole. Looking at computations, you may get a little bit on budgetary control, but most of that is in variance analysis because there's a strong link between the two. And of course, you've got your forecasting area here. There are 3 forecasting techniques that you must be aware of. 1 is regression analysis. 2, we have time series analysis. And 3, we have something called learning curve. Okay, our 4th topic, standard costing. Standard costing and variances, your favourite topic. Now, I'm expecting you to have some basic understanding of variances, but if you don't worry. You need to know the basics. But of course, because the basics have already been covered at paper F2, you've also got to develop those basic variances in terms of planning on operational variances, mix variances, idle time variances, and sales mix and quantity variances. So there are a whole host of little bits and pieces here. My view is that variance analysis, the standard costing part of the syllabus, is there to prove that you've done the work, because if you do practice your variances, you are almost guaranteeing yourself a few marks in the exam. Finally, we've got performance appraisal, including financial and non-financial measures. Remember what I said at the beginning? This paper is all about performance measurement. And so we have a discrete topic here on performance appraisal. But, as I said before, you may get elements of performance appraisal in variance analysis, of course, in budgeting, and possibly even in costing methods as well. When we move to the format of the exam paper, we have a 3-hour paper with 15 minutes reading time, the same as all skills and professional level papers. What makes this paper slightly different is that we have 5 exam questions of 20 marks each. There's no choice here. Now, the first point is, if there is no choice, what does that mean to us? Well, in simple terms, it means that question spotting is a very bad idea. You need to know a little bit about everything. That is the safe way forward. Anybody who suggests they know what's coming up in the exam are liars. The only person who knows what's coming up in the exam is Anne Irons, the examiner, and possibly her husband. Now, when we look at this, we've got 5 questions and we've got 5 core areas, so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to come up to the conclusion that it's likely that we're going to get each core area examined each time, or at least most of the time. The examiner will not force herself into that straitjacket. Given that we only have 20-mark questions, the issue we have is this. We're going to have to jump quite quickly from one question to the other to keep on going through the exam. Having said that, because they are only 20-mark questions, we can reasonably expect the level of complexity to be relatively low. And also, it tends to mean, although I'm not making any promises, that we have slightly more computation as opposed to written stuff. So I would expect, although it's very difficult with an examiner that's only been here for a couple of sittings, something like 55% of the marks to be computational and 45% to be written or essay. Well, okay, that's the introduction to F5. Now let's look at some detail.